What up, world? It's Wary Team back at it again. Welcome to episode 100. Thank you to the people watching me for the first time. Hopefully, you liked the video. Come back and watch my other videos. Maybe you'll find something you like. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. I truly appreciate it. Thank you to the people who's been with me since the beginning. It's been a pretty cool journey. I appreciate you guys for sticking around, watching my videos, liking my videos, and all that good stuff. Continue to do so. This is episode 100. Today's topic is going to be my favorite cartoon villains. I love cartoons. I still watch cartoons if there's any good ones on today. But growing up, I watched a lot of cartoons, and my favorite part of the cartoons was the villains. Like, if you don't have a good villain in a cartoon, then what's the point of having a cartoon? So these are my favorite villains, no particular order, and cartoons. Like throughout my years of watching cartoons. I'll have some honorable mentions at the end. But like I said, villains make cartoons what they are or whatever, make them good or whatever. I don't think there's any cartoons that don't have villains. Even the Care Bears have villains. But anyway, the first villain I'm going to talk about is Shredder from the Ninja Turtles. He was voiced by the guy Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The original Shredder from the original Ninja Turtles that aired from 1987 to 1996. He was a good bad guy. He was real funny, even though I thought he was supposed to be menacing. He was funny and menacing, I guess you could say. He was super smart, even though he lost every episode. But he was a decent villain. He made the cartoon worth watching. There was a lot of villains in that original Ninja Turtle cartoon, from Krang, who was a good villain, Bebop and Rocksteady, who were idiots, but they were funny. Baxter Stockman or whatever. But Shredder was heads above all of them. He was the best villain on the show. I truly enjoyed watching Ninja Turtles and seeing what ideas he would come up with to try to get them. This motherfucker said, "I want to make turtle soup out of y'all." That's crazy. But Shredder is definitely one of my favorite villains growing up. The next guy I'm going to talk about is the Joker from the Batman animated series. Aired from 92 to 95. I thought it was a longer run than that, but I remember the guy that voiced him, Conway, I think it was. He did the Justice League, and they used the same Batman voice or whatever. But the Joker is an incredible villain. He's probably one of my favorite villains from watching cartoons. And Batman animated series was like a super serious cartoon, and the Joker was just good. He had the corny jokes, which are super funny. He has so many different ways to try to outsmart Batman. He almost got away a couple times, but at the end, Batman is gonna win or whatever. But I thought he was a very complicated character, which they brought to life on that cartoon, and he was fantastic. I thought he was a great villain, and that was like in the era where the more serious cartoons were coming out. So Batman animated series wasn't like the regular cartoons, corny cartoons or whatever. It was like more serious, more adult themed. And I truly enjoyed the way they brought the Joker character out. There was a lot of good villains on that show. Don't get me wrong, like Clayface and Mr. Freeze, he was a super complicated villain. And Catwoman, who was a anti-villain, I guess you could say. But there was a lot of good villains on Batman the Animated Series, but the Joker was my favorite. You never know what he was going to do from whenever episodes that he was in. The Penguin was a pretty good villain too in that show too. But the Joker was fantastic. And the guy that voiced the Joker was around for a while. I don't know if he's still doing the Joker today. I don't recognize his voice as any of the Jokers in the newer versions, but the voice actor was real good for the Joker in Batman the Animated Series. But Joker, definitely one of my top cartoon villains. My next one is Mumm-Ra from Thundercats. Thundercats aired from 1985 to 1989. Mumm-Ra, as a little kid, he was super scary because he was a mummy. And then he would transform into the super muscular Mumm-Ra, which was crazy. He come from a little skinny mummy to the big muscular dude. That guy was intimidating. Even in the new Thundercats, he was real good in the new Thundercats. But the old Thundercats, he was intimidating. He was super smart. He almost won several battles, but in the end, Lionel and the Thundercats always won. But he was a very comfortable bad guy. He was a very comfortable enemy. One of my favorite bad guys. Super scary as a kid watching him. I truly enjoyed Mum-Ra for the Thundercats, and I love the Thundercats cartoons. The first version, and I like the one that was more adult theme that came out a couple years ago. I didn't like the newer one that came out after the adult one, but Mum-Ra was definitely one of my favorite villains growing up. My next one is gonna be Megatron. Megatron is awesome. Like, I remember when the Megatron from Transformers Generation One, which aired from 1984 to 1987. He turned into a big gun too. That was his transformation or whatever. And Starscream was usually the one that shot him or whatever. I thought Megatron was fantastic. He was very intimidating. He was a good foe for Optimus. In the movies, they made him so much bigger than all the other Autobots too, which was crazy. And I thought the voice for Megatron was very intimidating too. He was a good voice. Starscream was a good villain too, but he was a super coward. So he was always scared of Megatron. He never wanted to make the move to move up. Megatron was so imposing, and like I said, he had ideas, and some of his ideas worked, but in the end, the Autobots really came through and thwarted his plans. But Megatron is definitely one of my favorite villains because he was so conniving and funny, and not funny in a mean way, the way he used to beat on Starscream, he was good, and he was a decent leader too. And I guess the Decepticons respected him. So definitely Megatron, one of my favorite villains from the cartoons up to the movies too. He was a good villain in the movies. Next one is going to be G.I. Joe, aired from 1985 to 1986. I thought it was a longer run of that, but they had so many iterations of G.I. Joe. But Cobra Commander, G.I. Joe had a lot of enemies, a lot of bad guys. Destro, you had Serpentor, you had the twins, so many good bad guys. But Cobra Commander, he was like real sneaky. He was real behind the scenes, but in front of the scenes at the same time. He was one of my favorite villains growing up because you never knew what he was gonna do. You never knew he was gonna betray the fucking you never knew if he was gonna betray his team or whatever, or he was gonna just blow up everything and become the all-time leader. I remember that story arc where they were making Serpentor. He definitely didn't want that to happen because he knew Serpentor would take over. They ended up turning him into a snake in that episode. He lost his humanity or whatever, and he sort of became a good guy. He was helping the black dude. I forget his name, but anyway, Cobra Commander was always one of my favorite bad guys. I used to watch G.I. Joe just to see what he was going to do in each episode. He was so entertaining. The voice actor that played him was unbelievable. He was great. I hate the way they did him in the G.I. Joe movies. They did him no favors. They made him look terrible. But the original Cobra Commander from the original G.I. Joe, definitely one of my top villains in the cartoon series. Next one is Gargoyles, which aired from 1994 to 1997. Xanatos. He was voiced by the dude that played in Star Trek. He was the lieutenant in Star Trek. That voice acting was amazing. First of all, the cartoon was unbelievable for its time. It was a more serious things. The episodes connected, which didn't happen a lot back then, which I enjoyed. I loved that the episodes connected. Xanatos was a genius. He's the one that brought the gargoyles to our time or whatever, at that time or whatever. He was very cunning. He won a lot of the battles in the series. He wasn't really a loser. I don't know if you want to say he was an anti-hero either, because he helped them sometimes, and sometimes he wanted to destroy them. So he was back and forth with his love and hate for the gargoyles, but he was a very complicated character. He ended up getting married, having a baby. His baby had powers. It was a fantastic story arc. His character was great. There was a lot of good villains in this cartoon, like Demona and all the bad guy gargoyles or whatever, when they went back in time. It was just a fantastic show. If you haven't seen Gargoyles, definitely check it out. It's a fantastic show. You can watch it on Disney Plus every episode or whatever. So Xanatos, definitely check him out too, because he's definitely the best villain on the show. And the last one I want to mention is Lex Luthor from Superman the Animated Series. Aired from '96 to 2000. He was actually in the Justice League too. The same guy that voiced him. Lex Luthor, even though he's a human with no superpowers, very cunning villain, very smart. He had some plans where he almost beat Superman, but of course they fell through. But he was good. And the last episode was amazing. If you haven't seen Superman the Animated Series, definitely watch it. Definitely watch the Justice League cartoon. The guy that voices that has his voice, does the voice acting, is real good. I love the way his character evolved over the series. And he was super smart. In that show, Superman and the Justice League, there was a lot of villains. And by far, other than not Doomsday. Is it Doomsday? The big bag. I can't remember his name. Other than that, yeah, it was Doomsday. Doomsday was super dumb though. But other than that, Lex Luthor was probably by far the best villain in that cartoon series. And I loved watching the cartoon. I loved when the episodes revolved around Lex Luthor. And like I said, the voice acting for that character was fantastic. Actually, the voice actor for all those characters were pretty good. I got some honorable mention. Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Roger from Doug, who was an asshole, but he was still a funny character. Angelica from Rugrats, of course. Starscream, which I mentioned from the Transformers, he was one of my favorite villains, but I didn't want to put two Transformer characters on there. And Apocalypse from X-Men, he's by far one of my favorite villains. Even though Magneto was at the top, Apocalypse from the original X-Men cartoon was a fantastic villain. His story arc was great. He didn't really lose a lot of battles. They had to do traps and stuff to get rid of him or whatever. So definitely Apocalypse from X-Men. That's going to do it for my list. Let me know if there's any villains that I missed from cartoons. Any villains that you like, what you think about lists. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Truly appreciate you guys for giving me 10 minutes of your time today. Hope you liked the video. Come back and watch my other videos. Thank you guys. You could have been on anybody else's channel and you decided to watch mine, so I appreciate you guys. Have a good one, and I'll get at y'all on the next one later.